Hello, Team Flyer. Here we are once more, another beautiful Wednesday full of love and light here with our The Always Believer podcast, naturally, because that's what you're listening to. We have another amazing and wonderful person today who is very dear to my heart. She's going to share her Go to Fly story and everything else in between. She's also on today's post. Guest post, of course, with Go to Fly category. And I just with her, it's always been something like we always say over here at Team Flyer, they always believe her community over competition. We get each other. She's all about building that community, and loving it. So without further ado, here's the beautiful Julie. Hi.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm super excited. Super, super excited.
I know, me too. I feel like ever since we met, we've just vibed.
Exactly. We met thanks to Jackie. She was previously on our podcast a couple of weeks ago talking about all her life and Next on Scene, of course. So you and me met thanks to her in the fall event. And she was like, you two, you have so many things in common. You got the idea. It's right there in front of you. Just go make magic happen. And here we are.
Gotta love the connectors. I'm all about the connection.
Yes, definitely. So give us right now a quick intro who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Julie Costa. I live in Newburyport, Massachusetts, and I'm the founder of the Sweat Republic. And the Sweat Republic, I like to say, for lack of a better term, is a fitness networking group. So we help connect fitness and wellness professionals so they can collaborate and grow their businesses. And although we speak directly to fitness and wellness professionals, it is not just inclusive of that. We welcome and invite everybody in. In fact, we have some lawyers, some PR people such as Jackie, and we have videographers as well too. And the whole mission is that community over competition, and we're all about supporting each other, sharing with one another, because it doesn't happen often, and learning from one another so that we can grow.
Love it. Like, it's totally, we have the same vibe. The Always Believer and the Sweat Republic. It sounds somewhat similar, and it's right there. And I love your angle as well, because you introduce like the fitness to it as well. And what you say, share stories, which is not only not common still, and not the same thing, not typical to see. So I love that you're bringing that aspect as well to the table.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it started with fitness, where the word sweat came from.
Exactly.
Then the other spin on it too is it's like putting the sweat back into like nurturing those connections and relationships too.
Oh gosh, I can't wait to talk to you more about this and dive in deep. But before we do that, tell us about your backstory a little bit. Your childhood, you explain a little bit on today's post and whatnot. So tell us a
Yeah,
bit more.
absolutely. So my childhood, it's funny, I had a hard time kind of talking about it like publicly for a while, and then I finally just went public last year, because everybody has a story, right? Like we all have stories. Nobody has a perfect life, and all our
Yep. I'm right there with you. I'm the first one to admit it.
So I can share that I had grown up very normal family, and at the age of 10 years old, my mom had actually passed away in a car accident and wasn't involved with another car. It was sadly on black ice in the middle of January, and my life was obviously forever changed from that moment on. So I was super close with my mom, and me and my dad were just like very similar, like stubborn butt heads. And come 16, yeah, I think I was 16 years old at the time. I was like a pretty good kid. My sister was the one that was like smoking weed on field trips, of us, hope I could say that, getting suspended. And I just had a boyfriend at the time, and I would go to his house after school to do my homework, and mom would cook us food, because that was like that motherly like nurture that I needed that my dad couldn't provide. And I came home late. My curfew was like 9 p.m. My dad was super strict. And I came home late. I think it was like 2 times, and he kicked me out. So I ended up living with my mom's side of the family, 16 and through college. Went to college. And I think from those experiences I had, or especially from like my mom and her passing, I had a hard time with like getting close to people, where I would like get close enough, but like not let you get too close, because I was fearful that people would leave.
Totally understandable.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I think that's where like the connection in the relationship for me these days comes into play, because I mean, I was like everybody's friend in high school and college, and I had a pretty close friend growing up. um High school, like, kind of like separated ways with some girls, because at that time it was a lot of like talking behind each other's backs, and I was like, I don't really want to be a part of that.
Mhm.
And I had a close friend in college, but when you don't live in the same state, it's hard to keep in touch sometimes. So yeah, I would let people like get close but not too close in fear that they would leave. So I think just like this, where I am now, like where connection comes into play so much, is I wish I like really had that growing up, and I know like the power of connection, like what it can do for people.
I see you, and I see you totally and completely. That's something else that you and me definitely have in common. Thank you for bravely sharing your story, regardless if it's last year, 2 days ago, or 2 seconds ago. Of course, it's something so outstanding to hear people share their stories, be honest not only with people but with themselves,
Mm,
and own up to whatever happens to them, to the point that they're willing to help others as well.
absolutely.
So I get you, because I took a long time saying all parts of my stories, and right about now to this date, you can hear a lot about it. You can see a lot about it on my IGTV, on my podcast, on my blog posts in general, sharing all the little tidbits of what I've gone through, from abusive parents to being sexually abused to all these sorts of things.
Mm,
I mean, I didn't get kicked out like you, but I moved out at a young age as well due to like life situations. So I completely value the story and what you've overcome. And if that wasn't enough of the point that you and me agree with, is that abandonment issue,
yes.
parents leaving and doing a lot of things that, that's not nice. Let's put it in a
Mhm.
nicer way right now, actually. And feeling distraught, feeling that people would just, abandon you one way or another, just feel like, well, is it really worth my time? And all these sorts of things. And now you and me, what unites us the most, because I've heard us all the time, thanks to Jackie and Liv, who was also, she was the first guest on this podcast. Shout out to Style by Liv. And it's that community over competition.
Yeah.
It's that coming together, because that's our essence. We wanted someone there for us when we were younger. We needed someone there, and because we felt so alone, now we're like, here, we have that power. So I congratulate you without a
I could
doubt.
you. It's so funny because I'm meeting or working with, I should say, a brand videographer, sorry. And we were doing a deep dive last week, and he was asking me all these questions, and I like wasn't ready or didn't think of them. And I saw him yesterday, and I was like, hey, so I think connection is huge for me, because like my family didn't feel connected when I was younger. So I wish I had that. And I go, I think that's where it comes from. Like I had to like actually like think about it, because sometimes it's so automatic.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Thankfully, like went through a lot of years of therapy on my own, and I'm like, I need to figure stuff out before I was a train wreck. Much like what happened to you. I was like, I'm not your sister precisely, I guess. But, like so much chaotic things happen at that age. And I was like, after a while,
Oh,
when you're,
absolutely.
becoming an adult and realizing things, you're like, I need to fix this. Like, I need to find a way. And that's the connection right there. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Once again,
That's
thank
what's
you
real.
for sharing. And you said you were the oldest as well, right? I know
Yeah,
you
so
were.
I have two siblings. I'm the oldest. We're all pretty close though. So my sister is just a year and a half younger, and then my brother's 5 years younger. So my sister and I like always stayed close. We actually both went to college in Connecticut, which is so random. Um, but it was my brother, like that relationship, that felt the most strain. And I mean, now things are obviously great, and didn't talk to my dad for a very long time, and we've established a relationship. It's just, and this is not to badmouth him at all. It's just people are certain ways. Like I'm a certain way, you're a certain way, and he's just like doesn't have that like nurture in him. He's more
Mm-hmm.
like a business transaction. So I would say like I have gotten, like, me being like a hard worker, like, definitely comes from him. Um, but if I were to say like, oh, my loving personality, I'm like, that doesn't come from him. So, like, he has his strengths.
Preach.
Yeah, like, he has
Another
his
thing we can agree
strengths.
on.
Yeah, but it's just what his strengths were not what I needed growing up.
There you go.
But
I love that
in
outlook.
hindsight, I'm using them now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Always a positive outlook.
Yeah.
What did you study in college? Because I know there's a little twist to your story. A little
No,
big twist, but yes.
I well, that like I feel like most people probably have no idea what they want to do, right?
No,
And
no.
I had
Usually,
no
like
idea.
you're too young. You don't know.
No idea. So I was living with my aunt and we had looked at schools. Um, Looking back, I would have just gone to a state school, to be honest, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And student loans, like Sally Mae, she's no fun, but no fun at all. They I went to Quinnipiac in Connecticut, which is a small college, not that big at all. I think it was like 6,000 when I was there, 6,000 people. And it wasn't until junior year when we had to declare a major that I finally declared. And I went with legal studies because I thought I was going to go to law school. Um, Crazy. I just really enjoyed the
Yeah.
law classes.
You're like Julie the lawyer. No.
How crazy. Can you imagine? Oh my God. First of all, like the amount of debt that I would have had going to law school would have been crazy.
First thing, I mean, you would have been able to, I mean, lawyers earn a lot of money, so I feel like you would have gotten on the right track shortly but surely.
Oh my God.
But
That
I
would have been
feel like that's
crazy.
not you. That's you're
It's not.
more of a community. I mean, I know there's like we're not gonna get into legalities, never better said, and like what a like a lawyer is and like all the different areas. But you're definitely where you need to be. Like you are that. You're more you. You got that spark. I feel like lawyers. I mean, no offense to any lawyers listening. Please give me your comments if you have spark. But
A lot of them have spark.
exactly.
Yeah, it was, I think I just enjoyed the classes. So that was my major. Thought I'd go to law school. My minor was sociology, and I worked for a law firm when I was a senior in college. So I was a paralegal, and then I was a paralegal once I graduated college. So I worked in law firms for like 1 or 2 years,
And
and then
how
I got
was that?
the law firm I worked at after college was cool because it was all young kids.
Okay.
So it was
We
literally
can
like
dig it.
we had fun. It was a good time. But then after that, I went on to work for a bank for 5 years.
That is
Okay.
incredible. Like,
I know. And so I was
that's a big amount of time. You're still kind of more, not super lost, but you're like, all right, I'm here living a life. It's a typical 9 to 5 job, probably. It's a
yeah,
typical, forever job. That's what it sounds like.
yeah, typical. So I worked for a bank for 5 years. I was the executive assistant to the president of the bank, and I worked with our board
Dang,
of
girl.
directors a lot. And yeah,
There you
crazy.
go. So I know more or less what's coming up next, obviously, because we talked previously and I know you a little bit more. Plus, once again, dear flyers, you can definitely see that on today's post, a little bit more of her story. You jumped from here to a very interesting place because being fit like was important to you and staying fit in general as like your hobby, as a
Mhm.
passion of yours. So how did you move from banking into your next step? Please tell us, where did you work
So
next?
weird. So okay, I was in banking, and I would always read like Shape magazine. Oxygen magazine was like the big thing then. And I was reading Oxygen magazine, and I mean, I was just a regular gym goer, like nothing crazy, would just go do my own thing. And I saw this article where I would always see like pictures of women competing in fitness competitions, and they looked beautiful and they were in shape. And it said something about like the best coach for fitness competitions was located in Massachusetts, and she was in Norwood. Shout out Kathy Savage. And I don't know what possessed me. I found her and I emailed her, and I said, "Oh, I'm interested. Like, I want to learn more." she's like, yeah, why don't you drive down on a Sunday? Because she always hosted, it was called Sunday sessions, where girls would like, everybody would go, you'd work out for an hour. And then if you were competing in a show, you would practice your posing and your walking and your fitness routines. I don't know what possessed me to reach out. And then I went.
You were brave. You took the step.
I don't, it's like so
Your
unlike me.
gut feeling, that's what possessed you.
It's so unlike me. So I went, and what was really cool was that, so all these women, they're competing in the same show against each other,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all like practicing
Teammates? Okay, like,
practicing together. Yeah, we're like teammates. Like you're like, I'm going up on stage against you and technically competing against you, but we're like in it together as a team. So there was something about, and again, it goes back to the connection piece
yeah.
of what I felt I didn't have for so long and I was very much attracted to. I started competing and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the camaraderie, the girls, the support. I also liked the consistency and routine. Like you had like a pretty strict routine in terms of like your meal prepping, your workouts. And I went on and I did that for like 6 to 7 years, which is a
That
long
is
time. Which is a long time.
exactly. And this was right before changing career. So were you still like
Yeah.
banking, well, in banking, better said, while doing this?
Yeah.
And
So I was
just,
in banking. And then what had happened is one of the girls that I competed with, who was a teammate, she was working for Lululemon, and it was around the holiday season. Around the holiday season. And she was like, hey, you want to make some extra money during holiday? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
of course.
So I remember I went in and I interviewed for just like a part-time retail associate position at Lululemon, and I got it. And
At
then
one
I
of their
fell in love.
stores, right?
Yeah, at one of their stores in Burlington. That was my first store, and I ended up loving it. But let me backtrack. I actually, sometimes you forget your story. I actually left the bank to go manage. If people know Baptiste Power Yoga, I
Oh,
left the
wow.
bank to go manage Baron Baptiste. He had two studios in Massachusetts, one in Cambridge, one in Brookline, and he had an office. So I was the office manager because my thought process was, all right, I'm leaving banking to go into the wellness field because that's where I wanted
Totally. That's where
to.
you vibe the most, obviously.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to be. So I went there, was supposed to be the office manager, and I was really like Baron's assistant. So I mean, I was like taking his kids to the school and sports and moving his apartment, and I was like, oh, this isn't really what I signed up for.
Yeah, exactly.
But super cool because I got to see how he hosted all of his like teacher training programs, and they wanted me to experience it. So because I was talking to everybody on the phone about it, they sent me to a teacher training. So I'm actually like level 1 certified to teach yoga,
Yay!
which is really cool.
Which is so cool.
Which is cool. So that got me into the wellness space. And then in addition to that, I was studying to be a personal trainer. And then I was working part-time at Lululemon.
There you go. That's all the like little puzzle pieces adding
Yeah.
up to where it
Yep.
is that you're going forward to where you are today.
Yeah. So I ended up leaving Baptiste, going full time at Lululemon, and being a trainer on the side at HealthWorks in Porter Square.
That is so
And yeah, and that's
incredible.
how
You're
like
like literally all over the map right now.
all over the map. And that's how I transitioned into fitness. I mean, people know like when you're a trainer, I mean, you got to start like bottom of the bottom. So it's like the walking around the gym floor, like demonstrating, because they had that. I feel like it's similar. Well, HealthWorks is a really good gym and a good facility, but like a Planet Fitness, when you have like the stations and you rotate them, like doing the demonstrations on that, offering free workshops, free trainings, and that's where I was for a good amount of time. So yeah, Lululemon, I went full time, ended up loving it, and then I was training.
There you go. So you were doing the best of both worlds, literally. And
Mhm.
Lululemon, you were always in a store or
Yeah, majority of the time, yes. So I was majority of the time I was in a store. So I went full time, and it's funny. A lot of instructors or studio owners that I'm friends with now were like the original ambassadors at my first store, and one of them. was moving at the time. She was going to move to Miami. She's like, hey, like, why don't you move to Miami with me? She's like, you know, you don't need to stay here. And I was like, you're right. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't need to. So because at the time I could do it. Like didn't have a boyfriend. Like I wasn't attached.
Exactly. It's like, just move it up. It's Miami. I mean, I grew up in Miami. I'm always saying yes to Miami.
Right. And I was in a weird spot where like my apartment actually got robbed.
Well,
So
like here in Massachusetts.
oh,
Oh, goodness gracious. And
yeah,
then you're like, okay.
I came
If
home,
this was a sign, I got it, universe.
right? I'm like, okay, let's do this. So I moved to Miami, transferred to a Miami store, and I was there for like 10 months, I think. A good 10 months, like a school year.
I know, right? It's like a little break. Studying
Yeah.
abroad, but just to Miami.
I'm a Boston girl through and through.
I,
So I missed home.
I can vouch for that. You're definitely a Boston girl. I see you.
Yeah, I'm a Boston girl. I mean, it was great on a day off to go to the beach in like January. But I'm like missed my family, like just missed home. And coincidentally, Lululemon was opening a store in Linfield, and that's my hometown.
Oh my goodness gracious. It's like all the
So that's
signs are lining up for you, my darling.
all the signs. So then they transferred me back home to work at that store and open that store. And that was such a fun time because it was like being in my hometown and like utilizing like partnerships and relationships, and just like bringing so many people together. That was a really good time. And then after Linfield, I was at how many more stores? Linfield, Natick, and then Seaport.
Okay.
11
And I
maybe?
know the whole what amount of time were you at Lululemon?
I was there for, I believe it was around 8.5 years.
Which is incredible.
And obviously
Going
that became my like full-time gig. I stopped teaching and training, and because once I was managing stores, it was a lot.
yeah.
And I found like if I was teaching or training, then I wasn't working out. And that wasn't good.
Yeah, it is different, isn't it? I
Yeah,
do think about that. Like a lot of people who love training, which is wonderful for them, and you can tell, but you're like people much like have that opinion like yours. They're like, well, I want to enjoy, because I thought about it with yoga as well. I love yoga, and people are like, oh, it would be good teaching because I've been an English teacher, well, a language teacher in general for a really long time, and I don't mind teaching in general. However, I'm like, I want to enjoy my yoga. Not that I wouldn't mind teaching somebody else, but I like, just enjoying my space and my moment within. So I
exactly.
get you. So I do understand completely. You're like, all
Yeah,
right.
that's what came up for me. So yeah, Lulu was my full-time gig for a long time.
Seems like a really fun and needed adventure to go from one to another, because that's thanks to Lululemon and those 8.5 years. I know you gained all the skills and tools that you needed
Absolutely. Oh,
to
absolutely.
start your next biggest, most wonderful adventure.
Absolutely. It was my God, so many great relationships, connection. That's really, I think, where like the power of community and like community over competition came from. Just being in the community so much and seeing the dynamics and what was missing. And from leading teams, managing people, hosting events, like running a business, I owe so much. Like I learned so much from them.
And that's the thing. And the best thing about it all is that you were always interacting with people, like you said, and you always knew exactly what they wanted at the end of the day. I feel like that's something so important because you
Hmm.
get to see and talk to them and you're like, oh, I want this and I want that. And that's when also different kind of interactions, and you kind of, as creatives that we both are, entrepreneurs that we both are, that's where our mind starts kind of like, oh, this is where this is lacking. Not Lululemon specifically, but just the world, this area, this fitness, whatever needs.
Yeah. No, and I had
Because
great conversations with people. And it was just funny because
yeah,
it became so much more than just selling yoga pants,
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
It was just like connecting with people.
I love that you also had events. I think that's something really cool for a store to do, obviously. But like you said, it's community. It's like making a difference. People do matter.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you still shop at Lululemon now? Do you have like?
No, I actually had a big closet sale because I was moving. So as I was going through my closet, I was like, yeah, no, we need to get rid of a lot of stuff. It's too
Exactly.
much. I mean, after 8.5 years, like you don't need that many stretchy pants.
Yeah, no. Okay.
So, so no more. I don't need to buy any more workout clothes. I am good for a long time.
You're covered. You're like, good. Love it. So, how and when did that transition to the Sweat Republic?
Yeah. So you know what's funny? The Sweat Republic was actually created back in like 2014. And I had an old logo that somebody I worked with at Lulu, she made it. Shout out G. And it all started with like, because I love supporting people. If I was on Facebook, I would check in to a studio when I was working out. And over time, people would reach out to me and they'd be like, hey, Julie, like, I'm going to be in like Woburn. Like, where do you recommend I work out? Or I'm going to be here. I was like, oh, maybe I should like blog about studios. That would be fun. So the Sweat Republic was a blog, and that's how it started. And I was highlighting different studios and studio owners. And I think there was a blog like once a week. And I don't know what happened. I'm just going to suck it up to like the demands of the job at Lulu and just being busy. And it went on the back burner. I think I'm not a blogger. Person like me. I'm like, oh, I'm just like not a good writer. And so it went on the back burner. I just became like very consumed with my job. And it wasn't until, I mean, it's funny because I still had like an Instagram and a Facebook page. I just wasn't utilizing them anymore. And then it was in 2018, I was eligible to take a 6-week sabbatical from Lululemon because the company is generous and provides you with these opportunities once you've been with the company for so long. And I took the summer off and I came back and I just like wasn't feeling the same way about my job and what I was doing and like what I was doing in the world. And we had a vision and goals night at my store in Seaport. And I remember I turned to the person next to me, one of my key leaders, and I was like, so I'm going to bring the Sweat Republic back, but I don't know how. And one of my ambassadors too, she was there. And I started like mapping it out. And I was like, membership, events. And I just started like writing. And like in my gut, I knew, I was like, yeah. I think I was done with retail.
Yeah, like this is my time.
Yeah.
This is where my heart is, and my
Hmm.
passion lies. Because you can still tell, like everything you do with Sweat Republic, it is your fire, your baby, your passion. Your 110% is always present, and you can tell that anything that you post is just really real and raw, and that's why I love it. Because like whoever is listening to the podcast right now, I can definitely say anytime that they follow you, it could have been, like I said, 6 years ago or 6 seconds ago. It's what you see, it's what you get, and
Yes.
I love that. It's like
Thanks.
it's you live it. It's a
Yeah.
fire that fuels you every single day.
Yeah. And you know the feeling. Like it
Yes.
just, I, I didn't have that feeling with Lululemon anymore. Like it just
Yeah,
wasn't, I was like, okay, I'm done.
there you go. I mean, that's what I always say. So well, if it's not a heck yes, it's an F no, my darling. So you're like, meh.
So true. So true. Yeah. It was time to bring it back.
So that transition, even though you did start 2014, what was the definite transition? Like, you said bye to Lululemon, you started Sweat Republic,
Hmm.
etc.
Yeah. So I remember I was talking to my two friends that own studios, Janine and Laurie, and it was Laurie's idea. I think she's like, well, I think a lot of people need to know you're not with Lululemon anymore because that's how everybody associated me. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, I just don't know how to like share that. So she had a great idea. She's like, well, why don't you invite people to like lunch? So her boyfriend is a restaurant consultant. So we got a private room in a restaurant. I sent out probably 30 invites to instructors or studio owners, and there were probably 10 that showed up,
Oh,
which is
which is
how.
great still. Like, it's still very powerful. Like, that was I was like, oh, damn.
Oh yeah, it was great. And it was my sister-in-law, or she has a company, Stud Muff in Boston, and she makes bracelets. So I had a bracelet for everybody, and just shared like, hey, I'm like no longer with Lululemon. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm bringing Star Project back, and this is what I envision. And what was really cool is that group became kind of like a little focus group to like bounce ideas off of. And what I learned, or one thing I should say I learned from Lululemon, is it's so much easier to create an event around something that's already happening. So International Women's Day was coming up in March, and I turned to Janine and Laurie, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have like a little event. We'll have a luncheon. You two will speak. Let's just set a goal of like 20 women. That was our goal. It, like, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden the day came, 98 women.
Wow.
It was crazy. Like, everybody came out of the woodwork. Like, my hairdresser, she was like, you're gonna have headshots? Cool. I'll show up with a curl bar. I was like, amazing. Someone's like, I have a flower backdrop for photos. I was like, that's great.
Community showing up, ladies and gentlemen. Like, that's what it's all about.
It was amazing. And I had to keep emailing the restaurant and saying, okay, like, what's our max capacity? Like, can I fit this? Can I fit that? So that honestly was the like launching pad of the Soar Republic coming back. That was really,
of course. That's an insane and wonderful, inspiring story of the launching start, without a doubt.
it was crazy. And then all the women were like, well, how do we connect with each other after? And I didn't even think about it because I didn't expect the amount of people. And I do have like a larger Facebook group, and we're like, all right, everyone can just go in there. And I learned for this luncheon, I created a different group because I was like, that group's too big. Like, you actually want to separate the people who want to be
Yeah,
engaging.
exactly. Yeah.
So after the luncheon, like, I knew, like, I just had to ride the momentum and just keep going.
There you go. So
With
that
no plan.
spiraled and
Like, no,
spitballed with no plan.
no, there was no, like, I
That
want
spiraled
to
into having no plan still in life. However,
yeah, I wanted to make it's like really clear. Like, I had ideas, but there was no clear plan of what
that's also
happened.
very groundbreaking though. Like, that is something that
And there's still no plan. Like, I'm still figuring out.
it's like,
I mean, come on.
aren't we all still figuring out? We're like, we're doing this. We're gonna stay one day at a time, like one step at a time in this case. But what I love
Exactly.
about your story is that, like, not only is it inspiring as a whole, because like you went from, almost being a lawyer to being who you are today, obviously, but also because even you're against the odds, no plan, just ideas, out of your comfort zone. You're like, you know what, this is what makes my heart glow. I'm gonna
Mhm.
put these people together and see what happens and take it from there. And that takes guts. That takes well, what's the word, like, persistence, like literally being disciplined with yourself and be like, I'm gonna go through and follow through this.
Yes.
So that's just insane. Thank you so much for sharing that and for doing and creating such a beautiful community, because
It's been it's been cool. And I've tried like a lot of things, and some things are great, like the Women's Day event, and then some things are not. Like, actually, our next event the month after was a flop. Because, and when I say flop, it was because I think I sold 2 tickets. Um, so it's like, you don't
yeah, exactly. You're like,
know.
you're living and you're learning. And I know that we have that connection, of course, with Jackie. So I'm like, that's marketing as well. So like, that's
Mhm.
also where you live and you learn and you're like, all right, what's next? But even with those tools, you still don't know, because people are people. Like,
You just keep moving forward. Like, you keep
yes,
showing up and you keep moving forward, and
you show up. I love that. Yes, you definitely show up. You're like, the next day, you're like, I can do this. We're going to define this better and we're going to find ways to connect.
Mhm.
So we've spoken a little bit more and thorough about, of course, about Republic. What else can we find? Like, we'll talk about the event again shortly, but what else can we find?
In terms of like what we do.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, our biggest thing is our membership program. So that actually launched last May, and right now I want to say there's like 50 members. There's one business, so there's like employees, but that's where we're at. And the membership has been really cool. It's pivoted a couple of times based on feedback from members. Excuse me. And I think we're in a really good spot. There's a lot of great perks that come with it. And the end result is it's like a BNI group, but not a BNI group. Like there's no like referrals or promotions. We actually focus on getting to know the individual, and then collaborations just start like beautifully like happening. And so what we're starting to do now is it's like every third Tuesday of the month, we get together and we have something, it's just a member gathering, and we do something called a sweat sampler. So for this month, one member is teaching like 30 minutes yoga, another member is doing 30 minutes of tapping. And then we always have a conversation with like, what do you want to celebrate right now? And what are you challenged by, or what do you need support with right now? So it definitely becomes like, it's a very safe space, some amazing collaborations, and then you have that group of peers that you can like bounce things off of too. So
Exactly. So you have like a
membership
bunch of
program.
like brainstorm ideas,
Yep.
that safe space, and just that unity of saying we're
Mm-hmm. So
in this
that's like
together.
the membership program, like that's the heart. And then we also launched last year a mentorship mastermind, and that's been really cool. Like the first round, I think there's 4 or 5 of us, and then we're going to launch it again in April, and it's mastermind. So like your peers, so you have peers for accountability and support. And then what I did this time is I have guest speakers. So I poll who's in the mastermind, like what topics they want to go over. And then based on their results, I'll pull people in. So like Jackie was on to talk about social media engagement. We have somebody next week who's going to be on doing like Instagram bio audits, like a financial planner. So it's been cool because we're like in it together, but then we're getting guest speakers to learn from too.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
I know,
That's
and
also
you know,
very
I didn't think, not that I didn't think, I'm surprised at how much I'm loving that, and like the coaching. It's really fun.
because you do get the best of both worlds. Like you get to share, explore your ideas, and create, but at the same time you're learning, which is, obviously useful. So you do get all perspectives.
And utilizing other people in the community. So I'm also like introducing them to these people, which is my jam. I like to
Exactly.
say.
Yes. It's both of our jams without a doubt.
Yeah, and I'm doing less events this year.
Which is good as well. I think like we've
Feels
talked about this before. It's a matter of quality over quantity.
Yes. I did a lot of events last year. I think I did an event once a month. And it was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. One, not everybody got time for that, both for you and for the people involved. And also, like I said, quality over quantity, because you want to give your 100% each and every time. So
Exactly.
pending on the event, pending what you sell, pending what you do, pending on a million other things, in general, definitely I agree. Less is more in this case.
And less feels good.
Yes.
It feels really good.
Because I mean, you got to put yourself first. If you don't love yourself and take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. So I love that you do feel better and feel lighter, and you're like,
So much better.
exactly.
So good.
So, um, I'll definitely love to talk to you more with other episodes and whatnot. Find out for your story. However, what I want to find out right now is how did your past, your childhood, your stories, your legal to Lululemon, etc. How did that shape you to who you are today?
Oof, it's like a loaded question. Well, I think because I had answered that question with my videographer last week, I truly think like the connection piece comes from not feeling like my family was connected growing up. So I'd say there's definitely that aspect. And then, I mean, through Lululemon, like I found my love for people, although I kind of had it in college, but it definitely came out at Lululemon for sure. And I not only became a better person, but a better leader through Lululemon. So I'd say like that really catapulted everything working for the company. And so just taking my past, which is like my story, and then identifying my strengths, which came from working at Lululemon. It's like when you mix your story and your strengths, there's just like that's where magic happens. Like that's what you're meant to do is like right there.
There you go. That's the right answer for you because you followed your gut feeling.
Yeah,
That was your calling, better said, you know?
exactly. So it feels good.
Yay! Word of advice for anyone who's going through a hard time and has a big dream and wants to, like, I want to, sell merchandise, or I want to travel the world and move to Australia. I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny. I did a IGTV last week, and this would be my advice is that you'll never be ready. Because I think we can always say to ourselves, I'll do this when I have money, or I'll do this after I go to school, or I'll do this when I'm in a better place in my career. And you'll always be saying that. You'll always be saying, like, when I'm ready, when I'm ready. And it's like, no one's ever going to be ready to do anything. So I wouldn't like push someone to say, just go do it. But I'd say, like, what are one or two small actions you can take today to help get you there?
Oh, that's beautiful advice.
Yeah. So it
Because
doesn't have to be a big push, but you're
but
never
what
going
can you do this instant that's going to better? I just spoke about this as well last month on like our IGTV and questions on the post and whatnot because of that as well. Like, what are you doing? How do you show up for yourself every day? Essentially,
Yeah. Yeah, there's
it's
like one or two things that you can do. And they don't have to be monumentally huge.
exactly, yeah, just like those kind of baby steps, like we were saying before. Because I do agree, we're never going to be ready.
Mm-mm.
Period. From it's a typical answer that we always get. Depends on the age and depends whatever. It's like, oh, you're never going to be ready to be parents. Well, obviously not. We're never going
Exactly.
to be ready to start a business or move to Australia or move. Just go do it and find something every day. I love that answer. I love, and not only that answer, but like that mentality as well. Because I
Yeah.
feel like that does say a lot about you.
Oh, thanks. I feel like, yeah, you just gotta take a step.
Take a deep breath, take a step, and little by little.
Mm.
So, my darling Julie, what are 3 words to describe you?
3 words. Connector,
Mm-hmm.
positive, and I'm gonna say breakfast sandwiches. I love breakfast sandwiches. I just wanted to throw a fun one in. If you know me well, I love breakfast and I love breakfast sandwiches.
That is by far the best answer that I've received right now.
Yes.
It's like breakfast sandwiches.
Yes.
We do have a lot in common. I do love breakfast. I love breakfast food. I can have breakfast for dinner. I love this whole concept.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm trying to find out and figure out what the heck are breakfast sandwiches. Like, I grew up half in Spain, so I
Oh,
feel like we don't, I don't
the bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich
oh, okay. Okay. Oh, yes. Those are very yummy.
on like a bagel, an English muffin, a
Oh my
croissant.
goodness. Yes.
I'll
Yes
take
to that.
anything.
Yes. There you go. All day. Yes.
So good.
Um, I thank you for the for giving us that laugh as well. What are you grateful for?
Oh, loaded question. I am grateful. I'm grateful for change. Like last year was like a very big year of change, and usually I very much despise change. And that stems from my childhood. Like I hate change, but I'm actually very grateful for change right now.
That's a beautiful statement as well, because change is constant.
Constant, and I hate it. I'm not gonna lie. Well, because I mean, it stems from my childhood. Like I went to bed one night, and the next day, like my mom was gone. So
Yeah.
I don't do well with it, but I'm welcoming it, and I'm grateful for the change last year.
Love it. So our second to last question is, what do you do for yourself every day? So talking about that self-love, what is something that you do?
I wish I could say it every day, but I don't. The one thing I love to do for myself is go for walks. That's my fave.
I mean, it's kind of hard also in winter here
It
in
is. I
Miss
mean, it has.
Boston girl.
We've been lucky weather-wise.
Yes, this year, yes, I do agree.
And now that I live in Newburyport, it's right by the water. So walking by the water
Yeah, your
makes me
town's
really happy.
amazing. I mean, I haven't been. I just see your stories, and I love the water as well. Like, I need my sea.
You have to
I
have
I, I need my sea. That's the end of my statement. That's just like,
right? It's
yes.
the best. So going on walks is like my moving meditation.
I love that as well. Definitely. Because I don't know, like I always say, like I did grow up in Europe. I grew up part here, part Europe, and in Europe we walk a lot no matter what country you're in. I feel like it's something that's very common for
Oh,
us.
absolutely.
So I do miss my walks because here's a little bit more complicated, not only because it's winter. Like I did a lot during summer and fall and it was beautiful, but it is, even though we're having a light winter, very light winter, but still
You're
it's
gonna get
cold, it's
bombarded soon, I
rainy.
feel like.
I know, right? It's gonna come
It's
all of
like
a
it's
sudden.
coming.
It's like
It's
it's still winter.
coming.
It's all right. It's still winter till March 21st, and here in Massachusetts apparently lasts till April. But
Mhm. Yes.
yeah, it's a whole spin. So you're a Boston girl, and I adore Boston, the city for what it is, but I'm like, I need my sun, and I grew up in Miami, and I love Barcelona. Barcelona's a really good mix. It's a good balance right there.
I
Like,
need to get there.
oh, you would love it. I
I know, I
mean,
need to
it's
get
just it's full of artistic jams and love, and I can go on for a while. But like I can always recommend you places to go whenever you go.
there.
It's like I'm your
On
Barcelona
the list.
girl.
On the
All
list.
for it. And definitely finally, it's this hour went by so quickly, I swear.
I
It's been
know.
45 minutes to the dot, and you're like, seriously? Goodness. Tell us about your event coming up. The big
Yeah. Oh God, I'm so excited. So obviously we had our first one last year, and we're calling it now the Sweat and Celebration Luncheon. And there's a lot of cool things. Mind Body Boston is hosting or sponsoring, I should say, the first hour. So we have a workshop called the Own It All Mindset with Andrea Isabel Lucas. And then for 45 minutes, there's a vendor market, there's connecting, there's headshots, a curl bar. I'm like, what else is going on? A lot of
freaking
photo ops,
everything.
obviously.
So many
I know a
photo
lot of
ops.
photo
We gotta
ops.
love our photo
And,
ops.
and then a catered lunch, and then we have a 7 women speaker panel. And what I did differently this year is because I had mainly fitness women on the speaker panel last year because
That's what you
that's
do.
how it's happened.
Exactly.
So I tried to be a little bit more strategic with different like chairs. So there's somebody in the beauty industry, somebody psychotherapy, fitness, yoga, diversity, inclusion, business, so that it kind of like represents like a lot of different pillars of our lives. So I'm really excited about that. And the one part I'm probably most excited about is I found this nonprofit organization called Empower Her, and they a portion of ticket sales are going to them. They're being donated, and it's a group that was founded in Massachusetts, a nonprofit, and they help young girls through the loss of their mothers. So
Oh,
obviously it's
sweetheart, that's so
both
special.
I know, and they have the founder will be there, and she's bringing a girl, so they'll speak. But what they do is it's not like grief counseling, but they provide events like a Mother's Day retreat. They have a mentorship program, so they pair adult women who lost their moms when they were young with young girls who lost their mom. So I'm interviewing to be a mentor, which I'm so excited about. But that's like where a portion of the ticket sales are going to, and it's
That is so
feel good.
special. Oh, that made me teary. That's so
Yeah, I
special.
know. So that's my. I know. I think every time I talked about it, like the first 5 times, I would get so emotional. But that's like the kicker, and they'll be there. So everything all around is just like feel good.
Oh my God, so exciting. I can't wait to see the stories, to see the pictures, to see the vibe. I recommend everybody, regardless if you're a Massachusetts or not, to go follow you at the Sort Republic without a
And then
doubt.
did I say when? It's Monday, March 9th. I'm like, did I say when? Probably not.
Now, I was going to ask you next, Monday, March 9th.
Monday, March 9th, 11 to 3, and it's in Wakefield.
Yay! So where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, so at the Sweat Republic or at julie.m.costa. Or the Sweat Republic. My God, it's not the sweatrepublic.com. I used to own that. That's a funny story. I let that domain go, and then someone scooped it up and wanted 10 grand.
Oh my
So
goodness gracious.
oh, yeah.
Because they
It's
knew
okay.
your
So
story?
No, probably not. It's probably just a random. So no, my website is juliemcosta.com, which honestly is better because now everything will just like fall under my name.
Yeah, exactly. Everything happens for reasons. There's
Yep.
I feel like, this is the universe giving you signs, and literally everything happens for a reason.
Right? But there are people out there that buy your website domains.
Yeah,
If you
I think
want them expire, just FYI.
yeah, exactly. Yes, I do. I also agree though. You have to
Be
like
on
protect
top of
yourself.
that, not like myself.
Like stay on top of it. I'll definitely leave just a friendly word of advice, another one. Apart from baby steps, this one. I'll definitely leave your links down below. You can also
Awesome.
check it out in today's post. Obviously, you're all linked up there with your pictures and with just more of your story. I'm super excited, super honored to have you on board.
I'm
As
honored.
part of Team Flowers, part of this community is sharing your story and your truth and being vulnerable and real and making that magic happen. Because what you are a woman with a message, and you have that, one of my favorite words, legacy. You have that power.
Ooh, I like that word.
And thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being here, obviously, and just being part of this, and just thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Like you are up to so many good things. Like I said at the start of us chatting, and I'm just so excited to keep watching what you do because it's phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I can't wait for more collaborations with you and me together. And as for us, Team Flyer, we have new episodes coming out every single Wednesday with amazing guests about different stories from all around the world. Of course, you can follow us on all our social media as thealwaysbeliever.com, through Instagram, Facebook, TikToks, because apparently I've always loved them. I really have, but that's a whole different side story. And we're on Patreon. We also have a membership group as well. So feel free, come on, join us and say hello. And we're always here. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here, Julie.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye. You too.